Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jody Kateva. I'm the Scholarship Administrator here at Legacy Foundation. Thank you for joining us for an informational session where we're going to talk about the Lilly Endowment Scholarship Program and the application. So feel free to write in any questions that you have through the chat function, or if you're following us live, you can write something in the comment box. And then I'm going to take some time throughout the presentation to answer those questions. I will say that we have quite a few participants. So if you have general questions about the application, we welcome them. If you have very specific questions about maybe your family situation or what you specifically should be entering, then I would ask that you just reach out to me privately tomorrow, and I'd be more than happy to work one-on-one with you about anything very specific. So let's get started. So again, my name is Jody Kateva. I'm the Scholarship Administrator here. I've been with Legacy Foundation for 5 years. Best job I've ever had. I love working with students. You guys inspire me every day. So a little bit just about Legacy Foundation in case you didn't know about us. So we are the community foundation that serves Lake County. And so we do a number of things for the local community. Obviously, number one, we offer scholarships to students in Lake County, but we also do other things as well. We serve as a mentor and a resource center for nonprofits to make sure that they can serve their community the best way that they can. We work with donors and we help them manage their charitable assets, whether that be through funding nonprofits or funding scholarships. We work with local leaders to, again, enhance the quality of life here in Northwest Indiana. And then finally, we provide grants to those nonprofits. So just like we have a scholarship application, we have numerous grant cycles throughout the year where we're able to provide funding to local nonprofits. So just a little bit about what we do in general so that you know. So before we get started talking specifically just about Legacy Foundation and the scholarship program, I would like to get a little bit of information just about who's here. Is it parents? Is it students? Do we have school personnel? So we're going to put up a Zoom poll. So if you wouldn't mind kind of giving us a little bit of information, that's helpful for me. And if you're on Facebook Live, you can totally put that in the comments. And it just gives us a good idea of who we're connecting with. This is the first time we've ever done something like this. So the more information we have, the better. I don't know if let's see. Maybe Miranda can't put the poll up. I have two.
Can you not see the poll? I have it up on my screen.
Oh, I don't see it. Well, that's okay.
The poll is live.
Oh, the poll is live? I just can't see it. Okay. Bear with us, everyone. This is my first time hosting a public Zoom session with so many people. So just let me know when we're going to stop the poll.
So if you see a poll on your screen, please answer it. I'm not seeing any responses yet. So I don't know if anyone's having issues seeing it.
I responded.
I can see the poll, so I'll read them off.
Oh, good. Okay. So Erica, when you see, I can't see the responses for some reason. So when you see a good number, let me know and I'll end the poll and then we can.
We have 96% of the vote in, so I would go ahead and close the poll.
Okay.
And it looks like we have 65% of you representing students, 33 a parent or guardian, and just 1 in the other category.
Perfect, perfect. And then I'll also take a moment just to thank my colleagues. So Miranda Fishback and Erica Pfizer, who also work at Legacy Foundation. They are much more technologically savvy than me, and so they are assisting me throughout this process. So thank you. So I'll first just begin by telling you that in general, Legacy has two different scholarship cycles. So we have the Lilly Scholarship, that's what we're going to cover today. And then we have another common application that opens in December. And for that, we have over 25 different scholarships. You fill out one application. And so look for information about that coming out normally at the beginning of November. But for this presentation, we're just going to mainly stick with the Lilly application. I will let you know, though, this is something great, is that so the Lilly application and the Common App, they're not the exact same application, but they're very similar. And so the platform that we use online for our scholarships allows you to import all of the information that you've entered into your Lilly application into your Common application. So it saves you an enormous amount of time. You won't have to re-enter your name and all of your extracurriculars and all of those things. They'll transfer over for you. So what I like to tell students is there's no reason if you've applied for the Lilly to not apply for the Common App, because almost all of your information is already going to be there. So it's a great time saver. So on to the Lilly. So the Lilly, formerly known as the Lilly Endowment Community Scholarship Program. And what is the Lilly? Well, it's awesome, but it was created by the Lilly Endowment, and it encourages our most talented students in Indiana to attend school in Indiana and then hopefully pursue a career and settle down and make Indiana a better place. So how it works is each community foundation manages the Lilly process for their county. So throughout Indiana, every community foundation is doing kind of what we're doing right now with their local schools. And the program, since its inception, we've been able to award 193 full tuition scholarships. And so getting on to why it's so awesome. So the award details. So 6 students from Lake County will receive the Lilly Scholarship this year. And that covers 4 years of full tuition to any accredited public or private college in Indiana. And then the students also get a $900 a year book stipend. So for those of you who aren't yet looking at how much college costs, I want to let you know this is a big deal. So for some of those more expensive private universities, this scholarship can be worth over $200,000. So room and board is not covered specifically through this scholarship, but I will let you know that most of the students that receive the Lilly Scholarship either get awards from the school or other scholarships that help them cover those costs. So most people have all, if not most, of their college paid for. So what is the eligibility criteria? So you must be a resident of Lake County. Oh, sorry, I'm getting feedback. You must be a graduating senior from an accredited school in Lake County. The GPA is 3.25 unweighted, and that's cumulative through your junior year. And citizenship is not required. The selection criteria. So we look at demonstrated leadership skills. We're looking at service to others, character, the essay, the interview, and demonstrated financial need. So the process and timeline. So September 15th is the deadline to apply. The Lilly Scholarship works a little bit differently than most of our other scholarships in that we heavily involve the school in the selection process. I will let you know that most of the larger counties in Indiana have a similar process. So once you apply, we actually send all of the schools, the applicants from their school, and each school has their own process to select a finalist. And so depending on your school, that may look differently for you. Once your school determines who their finalists will be, those finalists then move on to kind of the final round, and then you're reviewed by Legacy Foundation Committee, Scholarship Committee. Once those scores are kind of reviewed, we bring the top 18 students in for an interview. That will likely be a Zoom interview this year. Once that interview takes place, the selection committee will award 6 individual scholarships, and then there's going to be 4 alternates. So all of our selections need to be approved by the Lilly Endowment. So we send all of our information off, and then they then have to review everything and then accept it. And so we don't actually let people know who the recipients are until mid-December because they have to do their part. And then also throughout this process, once you become a finalist, we also give out 5 additional scholarships. So for the 18 students that make it to that final interview round, 11 of them will walk away with some type of award. So before we go on to the nitty-gritty of how you go about applying, are there any questions that people have?
So Jody, we have gotten a few questions in the chat on Zoom. I'll just start at the top. Someone asked if they are planning on completing their bachelor's degree in 3 years, are they still eligible?
Absolutely. And we do have some students that do that.
And then just to clarify, the school only picks 1 finalist.
Correct.
And then could you share what the length requirement is for the essay portion?
I actually have a whole section about the essay, so we'll get to that, but it is 1,000 words.
And then Peter would like to know, does it cover 2-year public colleges?
It does not. So it's only 4-year institutions.
And then one more question as of now, what do you consider financial need?
Well, we're going to go over the EFC and as part of this, and so I'll talk kind of at length about the financial need part.
Perfect. The last 2 questions were regarding financial need, so I'll just hold off on the last one also until we get to that section.
I had a question about, will we be notified once the school has selected a finalist?
You will, yes. So once the schools select their finalists, Legacy emails everyone to let them know whether they've been selected to move on or if they have not been. Yeah. Anything else?
And then Jody, can you just clarify the term common application, since our term of a common application is not the same of what colleges use?
Absolutely. So we have basically what I would call a general application. So we just have, what I mean is we have 1 scholarship application that you fill out. And then throughout that application, it asks a lot of different questions. And then we will then sort you administratively to see which scholarships you're eligible for. So for example, if you were to look at our scholarship booklet, it has all the listings and all the eligibility. You could look at that, make sure that you know, at least one of those scholarships meets your needs. If they do, you go ahead, you do the common application or the general application. And then we on our end will review you for all the different scholarships that you are eligible for. So we do have students that win multiple awards because they're eligible for multiple scholarships with just that 1 application. And so again, it is nice that most of the information from the Lilly moves right over there. So, even if for some reason you're not unfortunately selected for the Lilly application, you're about 80% done for this common application. So it's a nice kind of seamless transition for you.
Great. And then we did get a couple more in, a few regarding professional school or going into the service prior to undergrad. Is there restrictions to that? Do you have to be a recent high school grad?
Yes, there are restrictions. So you are not able to take a deferment for the Lilly. So it's really only for seniors in high school. You have to live in Lake County. You have to be graduating from a Lake County high school this June or May. And then you have to be intended to go to a 4-year college or university in Indiana in the fall.
And then last one, are there any restrictions on counselors helping students apply?
No, I think that we have some schools that there are certain schools where it's part of what you do in one of your classes is apply, because I think it's a good life skill to kind of get to know how to enter this type of information into an application. So no, I think that that's just fine. I mean, as long, obviously, you know, as long as the words are your own, I don't think there's any problem at all.
Okay, and then there are a few additional financial aid questions, which I'll just hold off on those until we get to the financial aid section.
Okay.
But the last question as of now, just to clarify that this scholarship is for universities inside the state of Indiana. There was a question about attending an out-of-state college.
Correct. So this is only for Indiana. You can only go to school in Indiana. And so we do have people that are awarded the scholarship and may get other opportunities or a full ride from another university outside of Indiana, and they're asked to decline the scholarship, and then we will give it to one of the alternates.
Great. That's all the questions I have for now in the Zoom chat.
Okay. So the next group of slides is really just going over the application and what it looks like. I'm not going through every single page. I don't know if some of you have already started, or some of you may have, this might be brand new to you. So you apply online through our website, legacyfdn.org. So you'll go, and if you click down right under scholarships, you'll see Lilly Endowment Scholarship, and then that's where you would click. And this is the screen that you're going to see. And then at the very bottom, it'll say start your application. And so you would click right there. So this is the student view from our platform. We use Community Force as our platform for our applications. So a couple things to note. So you will need to create a new account. And so you do that by clicking the Create New Account button. We ask that you do not use your high school issued email address for this account. There are some high schools that we can't email in. And so a lot of the communication that I do is through email. So if I don't have a good working email address for you, it can make things difficult. And then also there's a forget password link. So if you happen to forget your password, you can click there. I will tell you to check your junk mail, because sometimes the Community Force emails do go into junk. But if something happens and you don't get it, you can always email me, and then I can reset that password for you. So once you set up your account and you open it up, this is what you're going to see. So you're going to be clicking on the Lilly Endowment. There's an apply button right there. And then once we open it, this is the screen that you're going to see. So a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. You know, number one, in the blue, I say enter your high school information first. We do that because I routinely send an email to all of your guidance counselors, and I let them know who from their school has applied. And so if you don't tell me that right away, your school may not know that you're actually applying. So it's important that it's kind of one of the first things you do. Once you go in, it's a drop down, it's really quick, just plug your school in there, and that way it helps us for tracking purposes. We want to make sure that all the schools are getting the word out and that people are hearing about the application, so it's really helpful for us. The second would be really to review the application before submitting, verify that the uploaded documents are correct. I have this, you know, in bold and red. Every year, we have students that don't upload the correct files. I've had valedictorians, you know, upload 2 EFC scores and then they're out of the running. And so I don't want that to happen to anyone. So I implore you to please, you know, make sure that you review all of those things before you submit. At the top, there's going to be the final review and submit button. There's the choose action button. So you're going to be able to preview your application there. And that's also where you're going to find the import responses. So when you go to do your common application in December, if you don't win the Lilly, then you would click that button, you would click import responses, and then that's where you would be able to bring all those Lilly answers over. But the rest of this, it's basically, it's going to look very probably familiar to any other scholarship applications that you have completed or ones that you will complete in the future. General sections about applicant, your family information, financial, we're going to talk about that. Academic information is just your school, what major you're considering going into, extracurricular activities that you've done at school, community, religious, and civic activities. So basically your volunteer experience, any special events, employment, essay. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Recommendation context, we're also going to talk about that. And then the applicant certification, which just basically verifies that all the information that you've put forth is accurate. So once you open up one of those sections, this is what it's going to look like. I haven't done a screenshot for every single page. I just wanted you to get an idea. So anything in red, that means that it's required, and anything that's not bolded red is optional. So extracurricular activities, this is where you're going to add anything that you've done throughout school. And so if you notice the years of participation, the application is very responsive. So if you click that you participated in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, then it's going to self-populate with questions about 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. And so you continue on through that, and it will continue to ask you if you want to add another one. And then you simply click no when you enter all of that information. So the student view for community, religious, and civic activities. So I have had some questions about this, so I want to spend a moment about talking about this. So I've had people ask what that is. So really it's any volunteer work that you've done. So whether you have done work with a local church or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Girls on the Run, I mean, any kind of extracurricular thing that you've done that's not involved through your school is where you would put this. And then we did add something new this year, and that's the total approximate hours per year. And this is really just to help our reviewers. We're not looking for an exact number, but you know, think back if it's something that lasts for about 6 weeks and it's about 3 hours per week, then you would let us know that, and then the total number of hours. And it's just a mechanism to help our reviewers understand the time commitment. Because when they're looking at these applications, sometimes it can be really hard to decipher. You know, one person might be involved in 3 things that only take about 2 hours a week. Someone else might be involved in only 1 thing, but it takes 10 hours a week. And so it kind of helps them get a sense of, you know, how much time you're spending at each of these activities. And this is what that the screen will look like for you. And then this is a little bit different. This part of the application, it will not self-populate with those different grades. So in that time commitment and total approximate hours, if it was different for 9th and 10th grade, you would just indicate that there. So you might say 9th grade, about 18 hours for the whole year. 10th grade, maybe you were the president, and so it didn't take you, it took you much longer. So maybe that was 60 hours for the year. And so you would put that information in there. And then this number of required volunteer hours, that's also something that the reviewers like to look at. And it's basically letting us know how much of these hours were done on your own and how much were required through your school. And again, it's just a data point for us to be able to review. So the next section is employment history. Again, very kind of standard, where you've worked, where you started. If you're currently employed, you know, enter current so that we can know hours per week. Again, you know, these are all averages. So the next section is our special events, conferences, and camps. So this is anything that you might have gone to, so, you know, workshops, conferences, leadership trainings, anything like that that you've participated in. I understand that the date just allows you to put one date in. So if it was an event that took place over many days, you can just put that in the section when you're explaining it. And then the more you can explain, the better. Often reviewers don't know, you know, they may not know what the Lugar Symposium is. So, you know, if you can give a sentence or two, that helps them understand the nature of the program. So before I get into very specific questions about the different sections that I have questions about, if that makes sense, are there any general questions before I get into those?
I have one. Are we able to start an account now?
You are, yep. Yep, the application is open now.
And can you provide the website once more? I'm sorry.
Sure, it's www.legacy, LEGACY, FDN.org.
And then we did have a few questions in the chat. Do you have any restrictions on employment, even if it was an informal babysitting position?
No, you can put that in.
Can you speak briefly on system requirements? One question was around completing your work all in one sitting. Can you save it? Does the system time you out? Restrictions in that sense.
Okay. The system will time you out. So I would save often. And once you get into the application, up at the top, there are some instructions. And one of those instructions is to kind of save often just in case. You should be able to do this on your iPad. You should be able to do most of it except for the uploading on a phone. Community Force is pretty good in that sense. I think Chrome is better than Internet Explorer. That would be my opinion. So if you have access to Chrome, I think that would probably be better than the Explorer. Other than that, I don't know of any specific guidelines. Does that answer the question?
I believe so.
Okay.
And then is there any special access code or anything like that needed to set up your account? Can you just briefly go over creating your own password?
Sure. There really isn't anything. There's no special code that you need. You just enter in your email and then you can develop your own passcode. I don't think it even has to be that complicated. Honestly, I set up mine so long ago, I don't know what the requirements might be now, but it's a pretty standard process.
And then speaking around employment opportunities, if someone has not had a job, does that count against you necessarily?
It does not. So what we do in our scoring, you know, we kind of, what we call it is public and private obligations. And so I think we recognize that students are involved in a number of different ways. And so we really want to look at the students holistically. And so because of that, you know, one student may be working almost full time and so not have the availability to do any kind of extracurricular or volunteer work. And so we take that into consideration. Likewise, there may be someone who participates in a lot of activities in school, and so they're not working at all. And so we would take that into consideration. You know, we have students who may be acting as a caregiver. So maybe it's a single parent situation, and so they're caring for their younger siblings, and so they're not able to participate in extracurriculars or have a job. So I think the application really gives you the opportunity to explain who you are as a person, and that's really what the reviewers are looking at. So it's not a, you have to kind of do each thing a certain amount. We're really looking holistically to kind of see who you are. And, you know, do you adhere to the values of the Lilly Endowment, which is really to, you know, give back and be, you know, a strong force in Indiana's future, I would say.
Great. And then there's a couple questions around transcripts. Is that something you're going to get into in the next section?
I will, yep.
Okay, so we're going to skip those for now, and then we're going to skip the EFC questions also, since I know you're going to get to those.
Okay, sounds good. So recommendation context. So I get a lot of questions about this. We do not require recommendation letters of any kind. So what we do is we allow you to put the name and the title of two people that work at your school that you can use as references, but it's only for your school. And so what that means is, so traditionally other scholarship applications would have you fill out all of this information. But because we have the schools select a finalist, we really felt like it was a lot of extra work on the students to have to submit all of these things with them not being able to move over to the common application. So what we've done is we provided that so that your school, when they're making their decision, they know who they can reach out to get more information about you. You know, and the schools in Lake County are so varied. We have schools that have very small senior classes, and then we have schools that have, you know, 900 students in their senior class. And so those smaller schools, you know, your guidance counselor may know you very well and may be able to submit the recommendation that we get on your behalf very easily. Whereas some of the larger schools, they may need to reach out to different people. So once the finalist is selected by your school will actually fill out a recommendation form. But you won't see that, and it's not anything that the student is privy to. But this information right here helps your school to know who they can reach out to in case they need information when they're selecting their finalist. And so the next thing that we're going to talk about is the essay. And so we have 3 essays that we would like you to complete. The first 2 are mandatory, so we definitely want you to hit on those 2 questions. And then the third, you can choose from number 3 and number 4. We ask that it be 800 to 1,000 words, and so that's in total. So what that means is whatever you upload, that Word document, that PDF, it should be no more than 1,000 words altogether. So whether you want to do, you know, 333 words for each essay, that's fine. Some people choose to number them 1, 2, 3, and then answer them that way. Other people choose to kind of get creative and answer all 3 questions in one essay. That's fine. Whatever you're more comfortable with, but we do want to make sure that what you submit in its entirety is no more than 1,000 words. And we do have you upload that, so you can type that out in Word or whatever you know, program that you like, and then you upload it to the application. So I don't know if there's any specific essay questions, Miranda, but I would be more than happy to answer them now.
Yeah, we did get a few questions on the essay section. How beneficial is it to submit a 3rd essay, which is optional?
It's not optional. So you do need to answer all 3. So we say that the first 2 are mandatory, meaning you have to answer number 1 and number 2. So the number 3 and number 4, it's optional which one you choose, but you have to at least answer 3 of those questions.
And then just to clarify that all 3 essays need to total 1,000 words.
Yes. So, and that's what I was saying. So whether you write it all together in one giant essay, it needs to be 1,000 words. If you choose to break it up, then you could say spend 300 words talking about your goals, you know, 400 words talking about your service, and then the remaining 300 words on, you know, your background, identity, or interest, if that makes sense.
And then if they do choose to answer the questions in 3 separate responses, do you want it all in one Word document, just separating the responses, or do you want them in separate Word documents?
No, that's a great question. You can only upload one document, and so they would all need to be together on one page, one PDF, one Word document, however you upload it. Yeah.
Great. And then we did get one more question about the volunteer section. Did you want to go
Okay.
over that now?
Sure.
Okay. If the student is planning on being involved in volunteer activities later on in their senior year, can they put that information and estimate, or do they only include what has taken place in their 12th grade at the time of submission?
They could certainly put it in, and the committee members will understand that that's kind of an anticipated thing. Absolutely.
Great. And then going back to the essay section, can they exceed the 1,000-word limit, or will you stop reading it after the 1,000-word limit?
Well, what I like to say is it's not a text box, so the reviewers aren't counting your words because they don't have time. So, if it's 105 or 1,005 words or 1,010 words, but if you submit something that is clearly outside of the parameters of what we asked for, then not that they're going to not read it, but they're definitely going to take into note that the instructions weren't exactly followed as indicated.
And then Alyssa had one more question about the essay flow. I know you already went over how you can select to respond all in one response for the 3 questions, or you can split it up. Do you prefer, if they split it up, that they should be all around the same topic or different topics? Does it matter?
So I guess I don't quite understand the question. So if you're going to split them up, either way, we want to make sure that you answer the questions that we've asked. So that's really important. We've asked these questions specifically because this is what the reviewers really want to hear about. So I guess I don't quite understand the question of talking about the same thing. Now if they all, for example, meld together. So number 1, explain your future goals if you want to be a doctor, and you want to talk about that. And then if the time that you provided a service was maybe volunteering in a hospital, then, there's ways that they're going to naturally flow together. But I don't think that we would say we have a preference either way. I mean, this is really your opportunity for us to get to know you. So I think that you need to kind of do it the way that makes the most sense for you, if that makes sense.
Alyssa said it makes sense. So,
Okay.
So you answered your question.
Good.
And then one final question. Do you have any restrictions on proofing? Does it have to be totally independently done by the student? Can someone review or advise how the essay is written?
Sure. That's a great question. I'm going to go to my next slide. So we have essay tips. And so these are not even necessarily specific to this scholarship, but I think that these are just good tips in general for your future. So we want you to read the instructions. We want you to, look at the limits on the essay, and we want to answer the questions asked. So you can have a wonderful essay, but if it doesn't answer what we've asked you, it's not going to really, hone in on what we need the way it should. So some tips that I give students are to kind of plan in advance. I think this is just in general a good thing to do is, kind of write down all of the stuff that you do, write down what you're proud of, write down your accomplishments, write everything down, even if it's just in list form. And it kind of is a nice way for you to see your portfolio written down all at once, and then it helps you to navigate how to answer those questions. Another thing that is really important is I would say, write in plain language. Sometimes we have students and I think that they want to beef up their words. And so, they use their thesaurus a ton, and they have lots of really, like my mom would call them 25-cent words, but sometimes they're not used correctly, and it makes it more challenging and complicated to read. So, write in your own voice. You don't need to, make all the words like those big crazy 25-cent words. It's really about us getting to know you. Also, a good essay isn't about style and formatting, but it is important. So you're uploading a document, and we're going to see. So if you upload a Word document and there's misspellings that are highlighted in red for the reviewers because you've saved them that way, right off the bat, that kind of, changes the way they're going to look at your application right from the beginning, because it shows us that you didn't even take the time to proof it and, make spelling changes. Make it personal, make it passionate. It's our opportunity to get to know you. So we have lots of different students, and they all have lots of different activities that they're involved in. And so this is really your opportunity to let us into who you are, what makes you different. I like the linkages that we kind of have in here. If you're writing about your desire to become a biologist, explain about why, how did that happen? Oh, because your dad bought you a microscope when you were 5 and you thought it was amazing. That's the kind of thing that is going to be memorable to the review committee. Don't just mention that you work with disadvantaged kids, tell them how your love of art got you into that. Focusing on specific examples is really important. And then use specific and statements. So, don't write like education is the key to success. Really try and make it personal to who you are. And then number 6, to very long-winded way to get back to our question, find an editor. Yes, please find an editor. Find family members or teachers, advisors. They all make great editors. And some people are going to catch grammar and spelling mistakes, which is important. Other people may be able to, give you guidance more on, the substance of your essay and how they can improve it. At the end of the day, we want it to be your essay. So I don't want someone to write your essay for you. We don't want to lose your voice because it's been so finessed by other people. But I definitely think it's important to have an editor or have someone read it over. And then finally, number 7, read your essay out loud to yourself, because I think that when you read in your own mind, sometimes it isn't as, some of the errors aren't as glaring. When you take the time to actually read it out loud, then you kind of will get a sense of, oh, that doesn't really sound as great as I thought, or, oh, that sounds wonderful. So I think that that's, something really easy that everyone should do before they submit it. So before we move on to financial section, any other questions about the essay?
We had 2 more questions. Any requirements on font or spacing?
No.
And then can you verify the deadline for the essays?
Yes, the whole thing is due September 15th at 5 o'clock. So every single part of it.
Great. Those are the only 2 we had.
Okay, great. So on to the financial information section. So again, I'd be more than happy to answer general questions. If when you're in this process of doing this, you have questions that are specific to your family, feel free to reach out to me. Most of the time I can help you. Sometimes I can't, and it may be a text question that's over my head, but normally we can work through it together. So we use the College Board's expected family contribution calculator. And so the reason we do that is because it provides us kind of similar information as what a FAFSA will. And so if you don't know what the FAFSA is, you should, so make sure that you learn all about it. It's the free application for federal student aid, and it is required that you fill it out if you want to get Pell Grants, if you want to get college financial aid packages, if you want to get subsidized loans through your school. So I encourage you, if you don't have information about the FAFSA, bug your guidance counselors, look online. There's a lot of information. It's critical that you fill that out. And a lot of universities do use that FAFSA kind of first come, first serve. So I'm one that I would tell you, get on that earlier rather than later. And so that's just my kind of PSA about the FAFSA. It doesn't have anything to do with Legacy or this scholarship application, but I think it's really important to know about the FAFSA. We have lots of students in Indiana that don't complete it that could, and so they're then missing out on financial aid and loans through their school because they didn't apply. So make sure you do that. But basically, when you fill out a FAFSA, what it gives you is, it's called an EFC, which is basically what the federal government says your family should be able to contribute to your education. Does this number always make sense? I will tell you absolutely it does not. Sometimes that EFC seems way higher than what your family actually can provide for you. I think everyone that works in this field recognizes that, but for our purposes, it just gives us an apples to apples comparison. And so, that's why we use it, because it kind of gives us some information. Now the FAFSA, again, it doesn't open until October. And so this College Board website is similar. It's not the same as the FAFSA. You will still need to do the FAFSA. This is just a calculator for you to use to get a sense of what your FAFSA may look like. And I will say that if you're not familiar with the College Board website, they have a lot of really great resources for seniors in high school. So, spend some time looking around. They have other scholarship opportunities, lots of information about different schools and costs, and it's a very great website. So you should definitely check it out. So once you're in the application, this is what you're going to see. And so I've kind of highlighted some certain things that are kind of important. So number one, there's going to be a link to the EFC calculator. So within the application, there's a link right there. You don't have to exit the application. You can just click that and it will bring you right to where you need to go to enter that information. I will say that, this might be something that you want to do with a guardian, or you're going to want to have information from your taxes. So, I want you to kind of be prepared when you go to begin this process. It should not take you very long if you have your tax information present. I think the whole thing is only about 5 pages long, and it's not a whole lot of questions. So it's a very kind of shortened, abbreviated FAFSA. And so I want to highlight also that we ask for 2019 tax information. So when you go on to College Board, it's going to ask you for 2018, because the traditional FAFSA through the federal government runs 2 years behind. So when you fill out the FAFSA in October, it will be asking for 2018 information. We are asking for 2019 because we are just using this to get a sense of where your family's finances fall. Generally how much your family makes in a year, how many people live in your household. And so those are the kind of questions that we're going to ask you. So it will ask you, what's your EFC as determined by the calculator. You're going to enter that as a dollar amount. And then there's a PDF right there that you can click on if you're not sure what it looks like. There's a whole guide that's available to you, and it will walk you through step by step. So don't get concerned that you don't have this PowerPoint, because on the application, there's a PDF that goes through every single step about how you would fill out this form. So you're gonna enter the number that it gives you as a dollar amount. You're gonna upload your EFC results page. And so I'll talk a little bit about how you do that in a minute. We're gonna need to know your AGI, your adjusted gross income for 2019. We're gonna wanna know how many people are in your household as reported on your taxes, and how many of those people are gonna be in college. And so then the next part that I have is this financial statement. And this is important. The reviewers really do look at this. So this is your opportunity to kind of explain, one, how do you intend to pay for college? And then two, if anything has changed. So in particular with what's going on right now with Corona and employment, your family's finances for 2019 may be vastly different than what they are now. And so this is your opportunity to say, hey, it might have said that our AGI was 45,000, but my dad lost his job, and so he's been getting unemployment. And so, you know, this year it's not going to be that much. So this is your opportunity to really kind of get into the nitty gritty of explaining what your family situation looks like. Are there unpaid medical bills that we're not aware of? So it's really, you know, we just try and give all the students, I think, the most opportunities that we can to just, again, explain who they are and what their family situation is, so we can really get a holistic picture of you for this process. And so this is just a screenshot. This is not the entire guide, but when you go and you download that PDF instruction guide, this is what it's going to look like. And so there's several pages, and it walks you step by step through that process. And then this information is also available on our website. So if for some reason you don't want to hop to this through the application, if you're on our website, you can go to the EFC calculator, and it also gives you the website as well as you know, the examples of what the EFC results page look like. And so once you're in the system, so you click, you go to the College Board, this is what it's going to look like. As I said, there's only 5 sections. It's, you know, it's not a terribly long process. You're going to select federal methodology. We have that in the instruction guide so that you know what to do. It's going to ask you some questions. You'll go through and fill them out. And so these are all screenshots just to give you a sense of what it looks like, so that it's not brand new to you. So this is where it can get complicated, you know. So this is where you're entering the tax information. So again, if you have that in front of you, that really is helpful. And so I've also pointed to some of the exclamation points. And so those, the system is really good. So once you're in there, if you hover over one of those question marks, it will give you an explanation of where it's found on your tax form. So it really does try and help you navigate the process so that it's as quick and easy as anything tax related can be. And then at the end, what's going to happen once you submit, it's going to show you a page like this. And that's going to be your EFC. So that's what College Board telling you, that this is in general what they think, keyword is think, the FAFSA is going to say for you when you do complete it. And so that number that you see, so right here, $6,807, that's the number that you would then go and enter into your application. And then what we ask from you is to save that and upload that to your application, that sheet. And so how do you do that? It's really however works best for you. So you can snippet, if you've got a snippet function. I love my snippet function. You can take a picture of it and upload it that way. You can use the print screen function. You can save it as a PDF. And so if like this really is presenting a huge problem for you, give me a call, I'll walk you through it. You can print the page and then scan it as a PDF. So, you know, whatever way works best for you, it's really just documentation for us that you've gone through the process, and that, you know, we have that kind of backup documentation for your application. So any questions about EFC and
Jody, could you give any scale of any sort of how much the financial need is used in terms of being qualified?
Like our scoring?
Yeah, for the scoring.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we really, you know, we look holistically at each student. So there wouldn't be like a definitive thing I could tell you. I think it all kind of plays a part in the process. Yeah. And then one thing I just thought of, it's kind of off the subject, but I do want everyone to know that, you know, I am here to help you throughout this process, and I do not participate on the review committee. So, you know, I think it's important for people to know that the committee that we have, We find professionals from Lake County that are diverse and work in a number of different jobs and have different backgrounds. And so they are the ones that score all the applications. And so I facilitate that process, but none of the legacy staff participate in that scoring.
So just to clarify, I think this might help a few people. We've gotten a few questions of if their EFC is pretty high, should they still apply?
I would say yes. I would say yes, because like I said, there's not one thing that determines the recipients. Our recipients historically have come from lots of different financial backgrounds, lots of different interests. So, you know, it's not all, it doesn't matter what you want to study. We've awarded to people that want to be nurses and teachers and doctors and students in STEM and students in business and students that want to run nonprofits. So I really would say that there's no one thing that would bar you from being a recipient. So I would definitely take the chance and apply.
We did get one more question. What if you don't know your parents' AGI?
So if you have any situations like that, reach out to me and then we can kind of work through that, because we certainly don't want this to be a barrier for you. And so I would connect with me individually about that.
I believe that was all the questions we had so far on financials.
Okay. So I believe this is my last slide before questions, but so really these are just my scholarship tips for anything that you're going to do in the future. So number one, you know, brag about yourself. This is the time to really reflect on all the wonderful things that you've done. And as I had mentioned before, you know, take the time to write this all down, because sometimes when you're typing it into a computer, it might not have, you may end up missing something. So, you know, I would definitely say, you know, take 5 or 10 minutes just to get some paper, write down everything that you've done. And that way, when you are reviewing your scholarship application, you can double check and make sure that you've put everything that you've done over the course of the last 3 years. Capitalization and spelling counts, you know, absolutely. As I mentioned, you know, this scholarship can be worth $200,000. So I'll be pretty blunt. I mean, if you can't take the time to spell things correctly or capitalize things, you know, the reviewers are going to notice that, because this is a lot of money. This is a big deal. So, you know, take the time. If you're gonna take the time to do it, you might as well do it, you know, to the best of your ability. My next tip, you know, print it and read it out loud before you submit it. It's kind of like your essay. You know, sometimes this will help you hear errors that you don't always see. Our eyes miss things. You know, our eyes know what it's supposed to say, and so sometimes we skim right over things. But once you print it out and you're reading it out loud, it will really help you see, you know, if your sentences don't make sense or if there's something a little bit off in there. So I definitely, you know, take 5 to 10 minutes to do that. I'm going to remind you again about the uploaded documents. I'm going to keep reminding students about this until I have one scholarship cycle where it doesn't happen. I've had 10 scholarship cycles and it's happened in every single one. So don't think, oh, I would never do that. You might. Please check. The next, find a reviewer. So again, if you have a guidance counselor, if you have a family member or a guardian or, you know, whomever, even a best friend, you know, have them kind of read over things. They may catch things that you miss. I would say take your time. It is a long application. It does take some time. Luckily, again, you can move all that information over to the Common App, so that's great. But, you know, it will be hard if you try and start this a day before it's due. So, you know, take your time and make sure that, you know, you have enough time to get it all done. And then my last one, so, you know, don't wait to the last minute to complete it. And please don't wait until the last minute to submit it, because the system is online and computers have glitches. And every year again, I have students who are frantically emailing me at 5:02, 5:05, my computer shut down, it started spinning, it wouldn't save. So please, the deadline is 5 o'clock. So we expect all applications to be in by that time. So, try and submit it at 4 o'clock so that you won't run into any of those issues. And so now, any questions that I didn't cover, things you want more clarification on?
So we had a few more questions in the chat. One, just to clarify one final time, what day is the application due?
September 15th at 5 p.m.
And then can you go over quickly how easy it is to delete uploads, re-upload things if there's any issues on uploading something incorrectly the first time?
It's very easy. So you would just go to that screen, and the nice thing about Community Force is that it breaks the whole application into sections. So if, for example, that you uploaded your essay incorrectly, you would just go to that screen, and where that file is located, there's a delete button. So you would just delete it, and then you could put a new one right in. So it's not hard at all.
We had another question on what if they don't know what they want to go into college for? If they don't know what they want to study yet, is that an issue? Can they start college not knowing, or do they have to have their major selected?
I would say, one of the essays that we have you talk about, in one of the essays we have you talk about your future goals. And I think that would be an opportunity for you to, I wouldn't say you have no idea. I mean, give the reviewers a sense of what you're thinking. So, you may say, I really love sciences, or, I really love the humanities. I mean, at least give them some information about what you're really jazzed about. But I also, the people that are there to review the essays, and the applications, these are professionals that also recognize that students change their mind. I have Lilly students who win the scholarship and want to go to Rose-Hulman and study engineering, and then they've left after a year or two because they realize that's not their passion, and they went into something completely different at a completely different school. So you're not locked into what you've said on the application. It's really just more or less to give the reviewers an opportunity to get to know you. So I would definitely, spend some time thinking, if you had to pick tomorrow, what would it be? But I also think it's completely okay to say, this is maybe the direction I'm thinking, but I'm not 100% sure. I want to take some gen ed classes and figure it out. I think we recognize that, there are a lot of students that are kind of in that same, situation.
And then I had one more question regarding COVID. Obviously, COVID has impacted a lot of planned activities and scheduled things. Will the review team be taking that into account when it comes to extracurriculars and also some personal situations?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we already know that, you talked about putting information in about your senior year. We already know that sports might not be happening. Certain clubs may not be happening. So, I think the reviewers are really going to be kind of looking at your activities up until March, unfortunately. And, not that they're not going to take into account what you plan to do or intend to do, but I think we all recognize that we're in that kind of same situation. And we also recognize that schools have, different schools might be doing things differently. So some schools may be having activities and others might not. I think in any of those, if you, have concerns or you really want something to come across to the reviewers, you can certainly, type that in the text box as well.
And then we got two more questions. I think these will probably be our final two, since looking at time, we are a little over. Specifically with extracurricular school activities, it says, do not include activities for which you are receiving school credit for. So can they not list performing arts classes? So just clarifying if they did, a band outside of class versus the physical band class.
Oh, that's a good question. I would put them and then maybe just put that you do receive credit. That might be something that I would go into the application and kind of reword. So that would be, I think, my answer right now. So put it in there, maybe put in parentheses that you get a credit for it. And then you may see that verbiage is changed in the application in a day.
And then finally, I don't know if you would be able to answer this right now, Jody, but we had a few questions regarding not demonstrating financial need. Do you know, has there ever been a recipient who demonstrated no financial need?
Absolutely. We've had recipients on all spectrums. I mean, kind of like I said, so we really try and look holistically at the student. There's not one set thing. So I wouldn't deter anyone from applying.
I believe I'm answering the last one in the chat, but I believe that's all the questions I had. I don't know if Erica had any on Facebook.
Nope, none over here.
Okay. Well, I certainly thank all of you for participating in this. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this. So for those of you that participated through Zoom, I'm going to send a survey out just to see, if it was useful, what was useful, what wasn't, maybe what I should have spent more time on, so that we can kind of improve this process for the future. Most of you should have my email and our phone numbers. So again, if when you're going through the process, you have any specific questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be more than happy to help you. And then I think that's it. Anything else, Miranda or Erica?
I did just drop your email and the Legacy office phone number in the chat if anyone needed it.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you taking the time out to listen, and good luck to you. Thanks. Okay, I don't know how to end it, so. Oh.